Welcome back to Third Phase, everybody. I'm Rich Giordano.
And I'm Michael Roser.
And we are back with a great new episode for you about Egypt, the pyramids. Brian Forrester is going to walk us through several different aspects of the pyramids, the Sphinx. That's the series is about. We're doing a 3-part series. This is part 1. And Michael and I are going to listen to what Brian says. We're going to look at what he's talking about, and then we're going to give you our opinion. So, Michael, you ready?
I am ready.
Let's do it. This is Brian. Oh, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, let's do it.
Oh, okay. Well, then do it we shall. This is Brian talking about damage that occurred, which is very interesting. Here we go. You'll see. Anyway, here we go.
Yes, in the Luxor area, especially at Karnak and the Ramesseum and the Colossi of Memnon, which are all megalithic structures, we definitely see possible signs of plasma damage, as in plasma ejection from the sun, especially on the eastern surfaces of the stone. We see heat scorching, and this has been confirmed by our geologist Susan Moore. At least 2,000 degrees Celsius seems to have hit these ancient megalithic structures, and we believe that these events happened approximately 12,000 years ago, which is about 7,000 years older than the dynastic people that we know of.
When he's talking about this and he's speaking about a heat source, leaving an imprint on the surrounding stone and so forth, I'm very curious. My first thought is maybe a natural event has occurred at some point, and this is the remnants of it or the evidence that's still left behind. But as he gets a little bit further into the video and he talks a little bit more about this, I will express a few more ideas I have.
Yeah, I think it's real interesting when we look at the video here and we see how it's damaged. Was it from a weapon of some sort, or was it a meteor that hit the earth and created this wave of energy that just changed the color of the surface? All right, well, we'll continue on here because this just gets better. You're going to love this, guys. The next thing we're going to talk about is the quartzite. The rock, I think that's what they use, but it's how they use it, I think, is what this part's coming up. This part that's coming up. All right, here, we'll listen to what he says.
For dynastic sculptures to work with.
Quartzite he's talking about.
Quartzite of this scale is located in Cairo, which is quite a fair distance away. Each one of these statues shows not only catastrophic heat damage, but even melting, as you can see here. Since quartzite is very high in quartz, when you apply high heat to quartzite, the material has a tendency of melting, which we saw at another location called Tanis in the Nile Delta. Once again, we see very large statues made of one piece of stone, where large sections of the statues have been obliterated.
Look at that.
It's amazing.
By invading armies, but again, by ancient cataclysmic activity prior to dynastic times.
What cataclysmic activity do you think he's talking about?
Well, many years ago, it's been recorded, at least geologically, that there have been these sort of events that have come through in the way of perhaps asteroids or something hitting the planet from outer space that caused a cataclysmic reaction here on Earth. And, who's to say that there wasn't a civilization around the way that we would recognize them there to witness this? What do you think, Rich?
That scares me because we don't know. Was this some sort of event that could possibly return? Is it cyclical? Was it a string of comets or asteroids that were just whizzing by? This is what scares me about not knowing. Where are the records of it? Well, nobody survived. That's what's curious about this. Was it hit by a tidal wave, or was it hit by a weapon with massive heat? It's crazy.
Well, just to look at it very quickly too, the theory itself, I mean, we have kind of gone back and forth, but I think there's a general consensus amongst the scientific community that the dinosaurs had met an end in relation to some sort of cosmic event like this. So it's not impossible to think that maybe there is some sort of cyclical part of this that, comes back and does affect us as a civilization every, so many thousands of years.
All those records are somewhere, I think. I think they're hiding the truth. That's what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's go on to the next one then. So this is very interesting. He talks about these shafts and tunnels that are really long, and they're carved into the bedrock, and they might be connecting the king's and queen's chambers together. But listen to this. You guys are going to love this one.
Tunnels in the Valley of the Kings, and in fact the Valley of the Queens, is that they are so long. They are hundreds upon hundreds of feet long.
Man, look at that.
Carved into the
It's
limestone.
incredible.
There's no way that they could have been created using hand tools of any kind, because they're almost laser straight.
There's so many.
And again, it's the sheer volume of them. It's also believed that the tunnels of the Valley of the Queens and the Valley of the Kings interconnect. So that's a giant tunnel system in the bedrock in the Luxor area. And it's quite clear that the dynastic people found this series of tunnels and utilized in a very practical way as tombs, but they didn't. There's absolutely no way that that could have been technically possible for what was, in essence, a Bronze Age culture. And again,
it's wild stuff. What do you think?
Well, I was going to ask you, so if he's observing that these hieroglyphs, petroglyphs are seemingly laser cut or not, made by any sort of man-made tool that we know of today with the precision, what do you think made these, or what kind of technology do you think that they might have had? Was it electricity based, or was there some other esoteric principle behind it, Rich? What do you think?
Electricity based? I think they had electricity. And well, then again, I thought about this. They had a lot of people, there's no soot on the walls and on the ceilings if they were using torches, but I think they may have had people following behind and constantly cleaning it off all day long. But that's just me. But to have technology that can actually carve with laser precision, and we don't know how they did it with the tools they had, is mind-blowing.
I wonder if there's record, and I'm just ignorant in this particular area of the subject, if there is anyone who's actually taken the time to decipher some of those hieroglyphs that are on the walls. Perhaps they tell a story, perhaps they talk about some sort of ritual that might have been carried out there. My understanding in all of my research, and there are many theories of what the pyramids were used for, but what I've come across, it seems to make the most sense to me, is that some of the larger pyramids there were associated with the esoteric teachings of Horus, and one of the pyramids might relate to the left eye, and the right eye essentially symbolizing the right and left brained interpretation of the world. And what initiates would have to do was go through these temples in a series of different practices and challenges that would overcome their fear. For example, not to get too off topic, but for example, when you have some of these chambers in the Great Pyramid or others that are around it, purportedly they were maybe filled with water, and what you would have to do is you'd stand on one end, and I'm sure you've heard this as well, Rich, knowing that there is a way out on the other side, but not knowing the exact dynamic, and it's full of crocodiles or alligators or some sort of predatory animal, and what you would have to do was condition your mind, and of course they'd only allow initiates to do this at a certain point they felt they were ready, where you're actually closing out that fear and going into it, and if you make it out the other side, you're getting that much closer to, again, the knowledge that they were teaching at that time. So with these tunnels being so long, the ones that we're walking through in this video seem to be more for display, or, something that will show people what's happened, or there's some story there on the wall, some sort of history. But essentially some of these long tunnels that are more or less inaccessible to the public. I mean, it's been purported based on sacred geometry that the way that the spirals, the light and the dark spirals meet in some of these areas, that they are like focus points for being able to literally get punted out of your body and go into meditation. And there's a whole thing going on with the King's Chamber in that respect. So,
wow. Yeah, there's a story there for sure. I don't think Brian gets into it, but I'm sure they have people deciphering it. So, next one here is they opened up the Osiris, I believe it's the Osiris shaft, to the public now. So, we'll take a look at what they've uncovered here.
Great thing that's going on in Egypt now, as recently as the last couple of years, and is ongoing, is that rather than them closing ancient sites, which are enigmatic and mysterious, they're actually opening ones up that have never been opened to the public before, and that's just fantastic. For example, on the Giza Plateau, there's a site called the Osiris Shaft, which was opened 2 years ago. It costs $2,400 to rent it for 2 hours, but it's worth it if you have a group. And it's absolutely amazing. It consists of 3 levels. First, you take a ladder down 30 to 40 feet. This is in the bedrock. And then you're in a large chamber, and then you walk forward and go down another ladder that takes you 100 feet into the bedrock. And inside that area at the bottom, there are 6 small chambers, including 2 large stone boxes weighing somewhere in the region of 40 tons apiece. They have cataclysmic damage, as if something exploded from the inside out.
And inside, mysterious, massive damage. Again, as if the interior of the box exploded. Very strange. This isn't simply tomb robbers going in and trying to extract material from the interior. There's some kind of chemical process went in here, which is very weird.
Weird indeed. Are you kidding me? That is so bizarre. The shaft is great. I'm glad they opened that up a few years ago, now 3 years. But this sarcophagus, or what was it, a tomb, or what did they call it?
I think he called it a tomb.
Well, the burial thing, whatever, it was exploded from the inside to get. I mean, it sounds like somebody was put in there, or something was put in there with a timer on it or what not, and it just exploded. That goop that let me show you guys. The goop on top of this here is I think it's coming from the ceiling and leaking down on it, if I remember that. Do you know how that slime was getting on there?
No, I don't. I don't recall that.
I don't know if it's coming. Yeah, I remember seeing this part of this on another show, but you'll see this substance here. I don't know if it's like, what is it? I don't know. We'll have to find out.
I wonder if anybody's done any sampling on that.
Do you think they put somebody in there? How could they have put something in there alive, or something that could explode out? What would it be?
See, this is something that really remains a mystery to me. I can't even imagine what it might have been. I mean, if it was organic, I mean, God, I can't even imagine. It's just one of these things that I don't have an explanation for, because I'm not sure how something would have had that sort of impact in its environment, or why it would have happened so deep within the tunnel. In my head, I'm just not putting it together yet.
And they said, I remember him saying how they must have built this around that thing, because there's no way that 40-ton whatever could have gotten in there unless it was built in there. That just blows my mind.
And you know that the answer is probably simpler, or more simple than we think. It's just a matter of placing the things together in the timeline and really filling in the holes, which is what I think archaeology is really trying to do with this sort of thing.
Crazy stuff. Well, the last thing we'll talk about is Tanis. It's again, we're going to be talking about damaged granite. Well, the heat and all that stuff, but this time we see a little different here, a little different part. Let me get to it. Here we go.
Able to see in the past, And a very exciting place to visit is in the Nile Delta. It's called Tanis, and there are lots of megalithic works there. Some of the granite had to have been moved from Aswan, which is 1,000 miles away. And it's a location that honestly appears to have been nuked or struck by intense heat, blowing up all of the megalithic works there. And the excavations, which were begun in the 19th century, they had to dig down to the soil, which is more like moon dust because it can't port any life. It's literally like walking on the moon. The excavations there revealed all of these massive megalithic works in that location. So if you're interested in looking that up on the internet, Tanis is spelled Tanis, and it's an incredible location. We're going back there in March of 2020 as well.
And once again, another quartzite statue with very bad cracking and literal melting of the surface. When we look in detail, you can see that this quartzite has melted. You see the small blob of the quartz crystal.
That's wild.
Here again in detail. Yeah. Melting that would have taken at least 2,000 degrees temperature. And yet again, another close-up of the melted surface of the quartzite. We speculate this event took place 12,000 years ago. And here again, another statue made of quartzite, very badly cracked and very badly burnt and melted. This fits in with Dr. Robert Schoch's theory of plasma ejection from the sun hitting certain parts of the Earth approximately 12,000 years ago. So that's twice as old as the dynastic period in Egypt, which tells us that there was an advanced technological civilization in Egypt 12,000 plus years ago.
That is wild. I can't believe that, right?
So clearly something has happened there. We're seeing this evidence. What could have possibly caused them to, how do I want to put this? What could have possibly caused some sort of nuclear reaction that occurred there that's being measured today? Is there any natural phenomenon that would have caused something like that?
I think it would have to be a meteor hitting the Earth and the heat blast from that. That would be it. I can't think of anything else unless they had technology, like we did, like we do, and something may have exploded and ruined everything. I can't see that being it, but it is wild stuff.
I'm going to throw one more thing out there from the left field. Again, in my research, I've come across this story that explains that there are certain races of extraterrestrials that attempt to come in and take over our world at certain points in time. I believe it has something to do with 1,000 years or something like that. But there are points in time where it's easier for them to kind of wheedle their way in and take over. What's more interesting about this story that I've found is that there are certain people here who are actually kind of assigned in a spiritual sense to ward these particular beings away from the planet. The last time this is reported to happen was, I think it was in the 70s or the 80s. And essentially what occurred was there was a woman in Mexico who basically out of the blue sort of felt guided to go into a meditation, or she had some sort of lucid experience where she went underneath one of the pyramids to find this craft, which according to her appeared translucent and yet had a skin about it, but it was solid. She then took her consciousness in some way and was able to insert it into the craft. And from that point, it was more automatic than her, really driving the experience. She said that she went up above the planet and all of a sudden realized that what she was doing was trying to ward off an invasion that was occurring. And the way that she did this was through her intention and the amplification of her energy and perhaps whatever energy was around her. She actually made every one of those beings who weren't supposed to be here on that vibration sick. So for the duration of the time that they were here, they were sick until they decided they couldn't be here anymore and they vacated. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because, we're talking about this possibly being something that's that's unnatural. And if there ever was some sort of one-on-one direct conflict with humanity and extraterrestrials, this kind of site might be evidence of that occurring.
I'm gonna blow everybody's mind right now, and that is unbelievable. That if she had those kind of abilities, I wonder if that can be turned against us here on Earth. If it works one way, it would have to work both ways. I would think, if they know how to use it, I would guess. But here's what I'm gonna say, and I thought about this, and I keep forgetting to bring it up on my own show. The Georgia Guidestones.
Mm-hmm.
And for those people who don't know, they were put up by some person that went by the name Rosicrucian, I believe. If I'm saying that right, Rosicrucian? It's Rosicrucian, right? Yeah, I think I'm right.
Rosicrucian, yeah, I think so.
It says that humanity and the Earth can be in perpetual, what is that called? Perpetual, not motion, unity? Well, anyway, to have man at 500 million people on the Earth, so we can be in perfect balance with the Earth. So we don't take too much from Mother Earth. We don't deplete her. We don't make her sick. Here's what I think, though. And I think when civilizations like ours get to the point where we're taking too much or we can leave the planet, I think the aliens, whoever they are, take us down. That's why civilizations over time have been wiped out. They get too close to leaving the Earth, or they're taking too much. And they wipe us out, and we start again, and then we have to figure it out for ourselves. Just a little thought.
Would that be sort of like a cleansing of sort? A natural cleansing? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a natural cleansing, but it would be a natural beginning again of, hopefully they wouldn't use nukes and damage the Earth that way. I don't think they would. See, and that kind of goes against what I'm even saying. Why would they damage the Earth to get rid of? Well, we're the virus. All we do is take. It's interesting, but I don't know. I just like to know why all these previous civilizations, they seem to be doing pretty well, like Atlantis and then Egypt and all the other places, and then they're gone.
Yeah, well,
weird.
In the sense of Atlantis, we can get into that at another point, but I believe that dealt a lot with the certain consciousness of the beings that were present, and they weren't just human. I mean, you had all different sorts of walks of life coming in and out of those healing temples in Atlantis. They came from far and wide throughout our immediate universe just to try that experience out. So we can get into that another point.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I mean, there's so many different ways we could go, but that's it for this episode. We've got 2 more coming up with Brian Forrester.
That's him.
No, but we'll be coming back and we'll look at more Brian Forrester examples of damage and other things with the pyramids and the Sphinx and all other sorts of stuff. So, Michael, any last words?
Well, I want to thank you for doing this again with me today, and I'd like to know where I can find you, Rich.
I am at GUFON, GUFON, Greatest UFO Network, and every day of the week, except for Sundays. Sometimes I take Sundays off. And you, where can we find you?
You can find me at Dark Hour Paranormal or right here on Third Phase with Rich.
So that wraps it up for today's episode. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please share if you have time. We'll see you next time on Third Phase.